Sweet. Okay. Yay! Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel and to me and Bethany once again trying to be podcasters. We'll see how this goes. Thank you for being here, Bethany. How are you?
I am wonderful. I'm so happy to be back here. We had such a great conversation last time. I've been looking forward to this all week.
Oh, me too. I'm super pumped. Last time we chatted, was it right before Scorch 3 came out or after?
Ooh, I want to say it was maybe like a week before
Mm,
Dragonfire came out. I want to say it was before.
I have since finished it, by the way.
That's right. You told me when you finished it. That was a delight.
It was a good ride. I really appreciated the ending. It was interesting having your insight from our last conversation actually while reading, because I know that you shared that just some of the things that were going on behind the scenes and how difficult even that one was for you compared to the first two. And so it was kind of interesting to have that perspective and see like where the story took you. And yeah, just we'll get to that. But yeah, just wanted to let you know that I did in fact finish and I enjoyed it very thoroughly. But that is not why we're here. We are here because you posted something recently that was super, super interesting. And I would love to just like unpack kind of what was going on in your head when you posted that, what sort of the heart is behind that. And so to give people context, you posted something on Instagram with the very eye-catching caption, "Give children scary books." And it really grabbed me and kind of stopped me in my tracks for a bit. So if you guys haven't seen that, Bethany's Instagram is at Scribbled Fiction, all one word, I believe. So go and check it out. It's on her feed, a little ways down. Definitely worth reading through the entire carousel. But Bethany, for those of us who maybe haven't seen that yet, could you give us like just a Spark Notes version of your point in that carousel?
Yeah. So effectively, we're at a place culturally where there are two camps, at least in the secular world, there are two camps where either everything that's given to children has to be so extremely scrubbed that there's no meat to it, or there is the opposite camp, which wants to put a lot of very inappropriate topics, very horrible topics in front of children's eyes that simply not good for that age, and are not presented well at all. So there's a happy place in the middle where you hand children books that will probably scare them, that will probably give them more of a glimpse into the darker side of the world. And the point of that is to prepare them for the nature of the world. So if you are capable of giving your children things that may scare them a little bit and showing them that that thing is a thing to be defeated and that they are capable of defeating it, it prepares them for the real world so much better. And there is no reason at all to be scared of giving them things that might scare them a little bit and that might make them think a little bit better because it will prepare them for life and it will make them be better dragon killers than they would otherwise.
Nice. Love it. Thank you for summing that up for us so that we can just start from the same page. So, the first thing that I kind of want to ask you about that, which this is what grabbed me initially, I will admit I'm not normally like an Instagram scroller. Instagram has me figured out and mostly sends me memes at this point. So, like, kudos to you because I stopped and like read through that entire carousel because it was like, this is so interesting. And the first thing that kind of grabbed me and made me think was this idea, like literally the word scary, and kind of what do we actually mean when we say that? Because I agreed with your point, like, and I do agree.
Mm.
I think 1000% that is the magic that we remember from being young readers, like 8, 10, 11, like that kind of age range was when I first fell in love with story, when I was reading those kinds of stories. But I'm not sure I thought of them in those terms. So like when you say books that scare them a little bit, what are you getting at? Like what do you mean by that?
Specifically things that adults think will scare them. So there's a YouTube channel. I always misname the title of it as Storyforge. It's not Tale Foundry. I end up with like two synonyms of those same words. Tale Foundry has really, really excellent, insightful story topics on his YouTube channel. Very interesting channel. But there's one video that's really stuck with me about what adults write for children versus what children actually want, what childhood actually is. none of us remember childhood as being what it was, not really. We look at other children and go, okay, their childhood is this, and it has nothing to do with reality. Childhood is so much scarier and darker and weirder than we want it to be. So a lot of times grown-ups look at kids and think that they're not ready for a lot of things. Unfortunately, children are actually just mini adults that know fewer things. They're prepared for a lot more things than we really ever give them credit for. So when I say stories that are scary, I'm talking about adults should not hold back that they think might scare children a little bit. Because once you start leaning into that territory, then you start scrubbing everything of all its trueness and worth because you're too scared of making their childhood somehow more intense. When ultimately having those like broad ranges of experiences actually help build them as people and help give them more information and more knowledge to build them into better adults. Yeah, basically, adults think that kids are not ready for a lot of things. They're actually very prepared. I would actually, to add to that point, I would actually argue that to an extent, children are looking for things that will scare them a little bit because they know the world isn't all rainbows. Like unicorns are great, but eventually you outgrow unicorns and you start to wonder what else is there,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
why that thing over there was so dark and scary, and what this thing means over there. And the more you hide the realities from them, the more they're going to go looking for it. So it's better that you give it to them because you can at least frame it in a way that is true.
Yeah. I think that's really, really important because, oh, there's so many things there. I feel like I was listening going, "Oh, I need to ask that. Oh, I need to say that. Okay, let me just gather myself."
Go.
Uh, Yikes. Okay, so for one thing, yes. Yes, 1,000%. I feel like we have this weird there's, like, this weird paradox that happens where, on one hand, I feel like I still have the same brain and personality that I had when I was a kid. So I look back at my own childhood and remember complexity and remember struggle and remember how intense everything felt in that stage of life. But I look at my nieces and nephew and see these wee little people that need to be kind of sheltered and protected. And like, I'm so guilty of this. I think that's probably why it grabbed me so much when I saw your post because I
Mm,
felt honestly convicted. Like, as the aunt, and I'm just the aunt, I'm not the parent. So I don't have that same like shepherding responsibility that parents have. I know that would make things more complicated, but when it comes to say what my nieces and nephew want to watch or the stories they get excited about, like I feel this I'm always more inclined to go for the safer option of like, "Okay, this is easier, fewer questions, fewer complications, don't have to deal with emotional fallout if, it's something that they can't handle." And so you just kind of steer them towards what's easiest. It just made me realize that that is actually kind of the lazy choice, and it's a choice that doesn't give them the credit that they deserve. Like, if I can look back on my own childhood and remember the stories that I got excited about that had that grit, that had that real life flavor, like, how dare I kind of gatekeep that from these kids? Why are they not equally able to deal with those kinds of stories and to learn from those kinds of stories? So it was like, "Oh, man,
mm.
guilty. I am doing that. Naughty, naughty, naughty Nikki." But also, yeah, I think we do underestimate what they're able to not just handle, because that sounds like it's a tolerance thing. It's not even really a tolerance. It's like they're so insightful. Kids are insightful and they're smart. And you're right, they know better. They know that the world is bigger than what they see in, I think you said like Netflix for kids or whatever in your post, which I got the meaning, even though I don't have experience with Netflix for kids. Like we give them this kind of like sheltered, colorful, bright world, maybe admittedly out of good intentions. Like, especially right now, the world is just a very, very messy place. Lots of people are burdened by things going on around the world. And I think sometimes
Mm.
there is this kind of desire to insulate kids from some of that. Like, no, they don't have to deal with that yet. Like, let's give them preserve their innocence, prolong their innocence. And so I think that it's not coming from a malicious place necessarily, but just you're right that kids see through that and that they do crave more depth than that because they're able to handle it. Like they want to be going on their own adventures and they want to be I think the way that you put it was testing themselves against something greater, against something more scary. It's a desire of theirs because they want to be brave, they want to be living their own adventures. I see it in my own nieces and nephew, and so it's a good reminder that, like, who am I to stop them from that? If there are meaningful, powerful stories that they are ready for, like, how dare I get in the way? So, yeah, thank you for, calling me out there. Appreciate it. You've kind of already touched on why you felt that this was the right time to put this out there, because it is something that I think has become more relevant, like, lately, which I think is strange in itself because I think kids are only getting more sheltered with time. So it's not like we all grew up with pastel unicorns and now it's like, well, that's all I know. Like, that's what I want to give my kids. It's like, I think generally, broadly speaking, most of us grew up with grittier stories. So it's kind of interesting to me that we don't kind of carry over that value, or that we have this desire
Mm,
to, like, oh, we got to shelter the kids, especially considering, like you said, that there's this opposite thing happening in, say, YA, where you're expecting 12-year-olds to be like way more world-wise than they are or
yeah.
should be. So it's like, yeah, what is happening here? Is there something specific for you that made you go, "Okay, this is a problem that I need to address," or was it kind of just like a cumulative observation over time?
Um, I would argue that mainly, well, no, I would explain it as I realized that it was part of the creative what I'm trying to do in literature, like what I'm trying to write. And so as a result, I was like, I should explain this thing. So the week before that, I'd put up just like a low effort fun easy reel of, you know, that this is for the kids who grew up on books that scared them, like Coraline, like Redwall, things that had scary stuff, because there's no reason that fiction should talk down to us. And I was like, oh man, I could get into that topic so much more. And so I spent like a day and a half in my Google Docs just trying to type it all out, figure out what I was actually trying to say, and cut it down into pieces that would work well for Instagram. Every time I make like a blog post style carousel, I wonder if like I'm actually pushing the limit on how many frames Instagram will let me do this time. But yeah, I was like, oh man, I want to write books like this, like things that
Mhm.
I grew up on, stories that stuck in my brain as a kid, where as a kid you read it and to an extent you understand that there is something big going on there, but because you're just a tiny adult with way less knowledge at your disposal, you don't have all the pieces to put that together. So you sit with that story for, in some cases, literal decades. You sit with that story, and then you pick up the novel version of The Last Unicorn when you're 25, like a full 15 years after you read the graphic novel for the first time, and you go, "Oh wow, this was what was with me the whole time." And you respect that author so much more for not talking down to you. It means so much when you're a kid to have an adult respect you enough to tell you the truth.
Well put. Love that. You guys would not know this, but right before we hopped on, Bethany was like introducing me to The Last Unicorn, and then we were getting so into it that it was like, we need to stop because we need to discuss this when the camera is actually rolling. So, for the sake of people who maybe like me were not familiar with The Last Unicorn, like, what is this story? Tell us about the graphic novel situation. You can even show us the beautiful art again because, yeah, I feel like we need to be educated on this
Okay.
particular story.
Okay. So this is literally one of my favorite books of all time, like probably top three. I found this graphic novel at the library when I was, 10 or 12. And there were specific parts that really stuck with me. I didn't really, I wasn't very good at reading comprehension when I was a kid, so I didn't pick up on it as much of it as I could have. But the thing is, there's a part of it that stuck with me so hardcore. I was not prepared for this book, because in the story it's called The Last Unicorn. In the book, the main character is, she thinks the last of her kind. She is immortal, but she just looks up one day and realizes she hasn't seen her own kind for goodness knows how long. She could be the last, so she wants to leave her beloved forest and go and find out where the rest of them went. So she goes forth to try to find what's happened to her people because the answer to the question, "Am I alone?" is going to either be yes or no, and she wants that certainty. So she ventures forth into the world, and she, much like a child in the real world, in her unicorn innocence and beauty, uh, is discovering all these dark places in the world, and everyone wants to get their hands on a unicorn because no one can see a unicorn anymore. No one ever sees a unicorn. Some people don't even believe that she is real, and they fool themselves into thinking that she's just the most beautiful white mare they've ever seen, which is so tragic. But you get later into the story, and there comes a point. So I don't want to spoil the whole thing, but there's a monster that's been pursuing her this whole time, and eventually it catches up. And a sorcerer that's been traveling with her, Schmedrick, he's my favorite character. I love Schmedrick so much. Uh, in order to save the unicorn from the monster, he realizes that what he has to do is make her no longer be a unicorn, so that she won't be recognized. So he transforms her into a human, and it is devastating. One of the first things she said is that one of the first things she says is that she can feel her body rotting around her, and that stuck with me for the rest of my days. I was like,
Gosh.
"That's yeah," and this is a children's book. This is a children's book. That's meaty. That's gorgeous. And even reading the when I read the actual novel for the first time this past year, um, I was so struck by all the depth, and there were certain parts of it that I still don't fully understand, like what the unicorn properly represents aside from just like innocence and beauty. Like there's something much deeper there that the story is getting at, where the choice in the end is between whether you want to let a human princess have her happily ever after, or whether you return her to the difficult life of being what could be the last unicorn and dying in that body. It's good for all age ranges. It will always mean something to you. Peter is he's a sorcerer with words. I have so much respect for this man.
That okay, that sounds incredible, and you know what that makes me think of is Studio Ghibli, which I just discovered not discovered, but, like, I did not grow up with Ghibli at all. So, like, I think I was maybe, I don't know, 23 or something when I watched my first Ghibli movie, and it was Spirited Away, and I was yeah, to borrow your term, shook. Like, when I finished
Yes.
that film, someone, like, lent it to me, and I was like, "Okay, like, I'm not really into anime, don't this isn't really my jam." I was sobbing alone in my basement at who knows what time, like, "No!" Like, oh my gosh, haunting, haunting story, and the more that I watch, I'm kind of, like, slowly collecting. I have a friend that it's kind of like our thing to watch them together because she loves them. So it's it's wild how they are, in a way, children's films, and yet they are designed for resonance. When you were talking about the way that your story, The Last Unicorn, kind of made more sense and continued to click the older you got, it made me think, like, I wonder if stories were built different at
Mm.
that time or kind of in years past, where it's like, this is actually not meant to just be entertainment, to just fill 2 hours of your evening. This is meant to stay with you for the rest of your life and to continue building significance as you live life. And I feel like Ghibli films resonate so much. It's so hard to articulate why they are worth watching to somebody who has never experienced them because I think in some cases the art form can get in the way if people are not anime people. It's like, meh. But that really is it. Like they are designed to be thought provoking. They're designed to build on themselves as you grow. They grow with you. And so, like, after we finished, what was it? The Boy and the Heron. The Boy and the Heron, we sat through, which was like the most recent one. And when it was over, we were both so confused. We're sitting there for like a solid 20 minutes in silence, just like scrolling Reddit, trying to figure out, okay, what does this mean? And so it's kind of like, mixed reviews. But then, do you think I could stop thinking about that movie? As that week went on, as weeks went on? No! And so then I just keep thinking and, like, piecing things together and recognizing what was significant that I didn't recognize at the time and seeing just so much meaning, and it's like, man, this is story. Like, this is what I want to do, is I don't wanna just give someone something that they have for a couple hours and then forget. Like, you wanna give someone a treasure that they will carry with them, that will increase in value with time, and I think that that is maybe what we've lost, that those old stories just did so, so well.
It's the pursuit of excellence. When you were saying that it's like the entertainment industry and like the stories that we receive seem to have gotten worse and worse. I my argument is that the entertainment industry has changed, um, at least in the mainstream part of it, and that really does suck. That mainstream media kind of deeply sucks right now. It's more rare to have a good film than it is to have a flop. But I don't think that the people who are creating good stories have slowed down or stopped at all. You just have to put in more legwork to find them, which is okay because one of the other hills I'll die on as far as fiction goes is that there is no reason why your fiction should make it easy for you. Like, certainly don't write an obscenely confusing book just to say that you've done it, but there is no reason why the story that you write should always be handing you the number four instead of 2 plus 2. Does that make sense? Where
Yeah.
people love to connect dots, people love to fill in blanks, and having worked for the conclusions that they come to about a piece of media makes the media mean more to them. You have more of a connection with it because you personally worked for it. If there's a phenomenon where if there's an easy version of a game like a video game versus a much harder version that you have to work a lot more for. People feel like they have more of a personal connection with the game if they play it the harder way and still succeed. If they failed multiple times and still got through kind of thing, instead of if you give them a fast track to the end of the game. Like they feel cheated if you give them the easy version, which is just comes down to respecting the people that you are writing for, respecting the people that you are creating for, because they are people just as much as you are, and they're people who want to use their brains for intelligence and for excellence just as much as you do. But if you aren't pursuing excellence in your media and you're just in it for the paycheck or just to create something and be like, oh, well, people are dumb, I'll make it for the dumb people. If you make a story for dumb people, only dumb people will watch it. And if you write stories for people who want to use their brains, then you will attract people who want to use their brains. And what am I'm going on so many tangents right now, Nikki. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Uh,
I'm loving it. You go.
but my new obsession with literature is ergodic literature. Is
Is
that a
what?
term that's familiar to you? Ergodic literature. Ergodic literature is literature that you have to work for. Stories that are intentionally more of a puzzle, not necessarily like super cryptic and difficult for no reason. Uh, Stories that make you have to work for it, so that they don't have a super linear timeline, or it's all diaries and you have to figure out what is true based on what the character does or doesn't tell you. Or there's one book out there. I can't remember the title of it right now because I saw it in a YouTube video a really long time ago. They Every page of the book is full of holes so that you can read only the words on the next few pages. And there are fewer and fewer words as you go through. And that is insanely interesting to me. The physical aspect of the book being brought
Yeah,
into the story that you tell. It must be so expensive to print. I don't even want
I'm
to think about
sure.
how expensive it is to print.
Who
But
cares?
I don't care. The art form is fascinating, and having to work for the conclusion that you reach about a story, it makes it mean so much more. And that's true about kid books. Kid books, I think you do have to spell things out a little bit more because they don't have as much of a logical brain developed yet to be able to put those things together. Um, but oftentimes it's more satisfying, say, in prose to refer to something in almost a sideways kind of manner rather than to say it outright. Better rather than say someone is jealous, it's sometimes better to say that, so and so looked at the other person like they just taken the last piece of cake. Like that makes you think about it a little bit more. And you don't even notice it quite so much unless you have a book that's always spelling everything out for you. You're like, man, this book is kind of boring. I don't know why, but it's kind
Yeah,
of boring. And you can smell out we can all smell out a sucky story even if we can't articulate why it sucks. That's
this is true.
me.
In the same I think the reverse is true as well. You can tell when you're experiencing something that is next level, even if you can't articulate, "What is it about this that I love?" Like, what is it about this that is staying with me and, like, not leaving me
Precisely.
alone?
Precisely.
It's just awesome. Okay, so we are almost at time, but before I let you go for our first segment anyway, I do wanna know what your recommendations are. So you have The Last Unicorn, but if there are I'm gonna say ergonomic, I know that is not what you said, but recommendations for for that kind of story.
Books you have to work for.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I have a pile in front of me. These are strictly books that I think are excellent for children in that they are perhaps a little bit more intense than like what grown-ups traditionally want to give them. Um, but as far as books that you have to work hard for, Last Unicorn is totally up there. However, the other really, really good recommendation for this, it's a film, and I watched this film when I was probably 7 the first time, but my dad is the biggest fan of the movie Amazing Grace, and I had grown up
Oh.
watching this film. It is about William Wilberforce fighting for the abolition of the slave trade in New England, and listen, I watched this as a child and I enjoyed it. I didn't really understand it, but I knew that there was good stuff going on here and that it hit me in just the right way. And watching it as an adult, I'm like, holy cow, because you get to the end of the film. Well, first of all, there are horrifying things happening throughout. William Wilberforce is definitely sick this whole time, and just horrible things are happening to him, to his friends, because they're running in a countercultural kind of way where nobody likes them anymore. And he's having horrible nightmares about like these slaves being beaten to death, or like all these things. But you get to the end of the film when at last he does succeed in the goal that he sacrificed his life, his social circles, his money, his social standing for his health, and the man can barely stand up, can barely even smile at all the applause that's being offered to him because so much has gone into it. And every time that scene absolutely floors me is that he put so much effort into this thing that he believed in. And I'm like, man, if I could get a crumb of that in my life, I would be a better person. That's insane. Oh
Amen.
my goodness. Everyone should watch Amazing Grace. Everyone needs
Okay.
Amazing Grace in their life.
Roger that. That sounds amazing. Thank you for those recommendations, and thank you so much for just yeah, your amazing, amazing take on this. I just appreciate it so much. I do think that the world needs more of this. We need to remember why this is important. One last thing that I
Mm,
want to kind of throw out there is that on the reader end, I appreciate the reminder that we should not give up too easily on finding those stories. That those stories are being written, we just might have to work a little harder to find them. But I also want to encourage writers who want to write that kind of story. You also might have to work harder to find those readers because I think
it's true.
that yes, there are a lot of people that wanna still use their brains, but I think what we're seeing on the general market is that there are also a lot of people who don't have that expectation from their books and are
Yeah.
content with just entertainment, and so don't be discouraged as a writer either. Those people are still there, but you will have to probably find creative and very targeted ways to find those people. I don't know if you have any kind of thoughts on Bethany, since you are doing that as an indie author.
I think always be willing to talk about the thing that matters to you. Always, always. Because either A, you will be able to put that little nugget of something into somebody's life. And even if they don't necessarily agree with it at the time, it's going to eat at them until they work out what they think about it. And B, it will connect you with your right crowd. Talking about things that matter to you will always connect you with your right crowd because it will either put a connection between you and a person who does align with that, or it will very powerfully repel people that you don't want to be around anyway. So constantly aiming to speak the truth in love is always a good way to go. Um, but also in a much more technical kind of marketing sense, I've had a lot more success asking readers what they think because there's a very strong phenomenon in the writing world where people genuinely don't know what their readers want because what they think the reader wants, it tends to be very, very different from what the average reader actually the way the average reader actually thinks. There's a bigger divide between the two than we really want to acknowledge. Um, but it comes down to like reviews. People will bring up that this was a reason why they liked the book and you never considered it that way, or
Mm.
just a completely different crowd than you'd expected will pick up your book and it will mean so much to them. And you go, oh wow, never considered that this would appeal to D&D players so much, but apparently it does. Not speaking from personal experience here, having met so many D&D people since writing a silly goofy trilogy with a million different races of creatures in it. Who could have guessed that that would attract the D&D crowd? Uh, but always listen to as many readers as you can, particularly readers who really resonate with your books. Find out what kind of people those are and go and find more of them. That is the way to go.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, for your encouragement. I definitely needed to hear that too, even just on my own journey. And I hope that you guys enjoyed too. It's always a pleasure to have Bethany on the channel. We might do another segment. I don't know. So stay tuned. Hope you enjoyed this one. And for now, see everybody.